Hey guys, this is a Patreon Q&A. If you would like to be in next week's video, simply check out the link in the description and you can sign up there. I'm also going to be going into spoilers for all of the series I'm going to be talking about. So Awakened Saitama and CabbaFruit basically had the same question, and it's in reference to when Garou is speaking to Bang in the latest chapter 170, where he claims that he had fought against Blast. And on the surface, it seems like that doesn't really make sense, given, what happened with the time travel and the new timeline that we're in with a different Garou, technically. So in chapter 170, when Bang and Garou are walking down the street, Garou says, "Old man, think you could arrange some sort of fighting contest with the heroes for me? The ones I fought after turning into a monster were you, Bomb, Flash, Blast, and that weird bald guy Saitama or something. If I take them all on in order, I'm pretty sure I could reach some sort of awakening without monsterizing this time." So, like I said, on the surface that kind of doesn't make sense, and let me go into why that is. So in chapter 165, after Garou becomes Cosmic Fear Garou, he eventually winds up blasting Saitama away momentarily with his gamma ray burst. Then Garou comes back down and starts approaching the rest of the onlookers, and this is where we get the big iconic, the symbol of fear that brings all heroes to despair, absolute evil moment. Then Garou says, "Have I finally become it?" And he looks up to the sky in reference to God. He says, "Thank you," as he cries like these cosmic tears. Then after that, he gets closer to everyone and starts talking to Bang about what had happened. And then in the following chapter 166, Blast shows up in between Bang and Garou, and he explains to Garou that he's become a puppet of God and that he's basically killing everyone with the cosmic radiation that he has. And then they go on to have a pretty epic fight. Then Saitama shows up again and goes on to have his epic fight with Garou, and it eventually gets to the point of where Garou realizes that he was wrong and he teaches Saitama how to travel back in time. And after said time traveling, Saitama goes back to the iconic symbol of fear that brings all heroes to despair, absolute evil moment. Except this time, as Garou looks up to the sky, he doesn't get the chance to say thank you and cry his tears. He just winds up getting zero punched by Saitama instead. And then, after that, he gets the mild beatdown from the heroes and eventually winds up escaping. But that being said, we're of course in a new timeline with a Garou that hasn't experienced chapters 166 through 168. So that means that Blast technically never showed up here and fought against him. So why would he have said that he fought against Blast? And you might think at first, oh, this is just a continuity error from 1, which is understandable because it happens sometimes with mangas. And also, we're dealing with time travel here, which is just inherently kind of messy with stories and whatnot, and can easily cause a lot of continuity errors, and this could just be the beginning of that, if it is in fact a continuity error or just a mistake by 1. But on the other side of the coin, maybe it's not, because in chapter 169, when the heroes are stomping on Garou, Saitama walks up to a My Mask, Metal Bat, and Flashy Flash, and he says, "Who took down Garou anyway? Was it Blast?" And Flashy Flash says, "I'm not sure due to the vertigo, but it seems like a naked man appeared out of nowhere, defeated Garou with 1 punch, then flew away. That pattern of movement does seem like something out of Blast's playbook." And then a My Mask's like, "What? Blast?" And then Sekigar says, "You're saying Blast actually helped out? And why naked?" So it's possible that Garou heard this and then just assumed that, oh, I guess it was Blast who defeated me. Or off panel, when he met up with Bang, maybe they already discussed this possibly, and Bang told him that it was Blast who defeated him because he had heard that. So I guess that's a possibility as well. But a thing that kind of makes me doubt that is the way that Garou ranks them here. He says Bomb, Flash, Blast, and that weird bald guy Saitama. If I take them all on in order, I'm pretty sure I could reach some sort of awakening. So he clearly is aware that Saitama is stronger than Blast, but Blast is of course stronger than Flash and Bomb. But him being zero punched was way stronger than any time Saitama had hit him previously, at least the chapter 165 version of Garou, right? So if that was the case, then wouldn't he think that Blast is stronger than Saitama? To be honest, I'm not really sure. I think it's like Schrodinger's continuity error at this point. But in the end, it's not really a big deal or anything. Jon C asks, how dope would it be if Cosmic Fear Garou copied Boros' Meteoric Burst and they had a Meteoric Burst fight? Yeah, that would be amazing. I think we actually talked about this last week, John, but if Boros was strong enough Meteoric Burst to give Garou Garo incentive to copy it, I wonder how that would work, because it seems more like a transformation if anything, right? And I'm not sure if Cosmic Sphere Garo would be able to copy the ability to transform, unless he can like alter his subatomic structure, but we haven't really seen him do anything like that. But if he could just do it and we didn't have to worry about the semantics, it would be pretty amazing. Geruda asks, why do you think Sukiyaki never revealed to his people that Wano is surrounded by fresh water? He let them drink the toxic water for so many years. Was it just to protect Pluton? So that's pretty funny now that you bring it up, but I'm not really sure where the pollution starts and ends in Wano, to be honest. I mean, it is surrounded by fresh water from the rain, as we learned, but I think it's also still polluted somewhat. I mean, the factories seem to at least affect the general vicinity, and I'm not sure how far it went, or if it's just mainly contained to the central islands of Wano. But regardless, this could just be that Oda didn't think about it, or Sukiyaki just really didn't want to talk to anybody, regardless of how he could benefit them or not, and kind of just wanted to stay hidden at all costs. Fernando P asks, have you tried the anime Baki? If yes, what do you think Yujiro's disaster level would be in One Punch Man? So this takes me back. Like 2-3 years ago, I was asked this question so much, and finally on stream one time, we looked at like pretty much all of Yujiro's significant feats, and I came to my own personal conclusion that he was like demon level, maybe possibly dragon. Again, I just skimmed over some scenes and some manga panels. I'm by no means a Baki expert. I'm not even like a white belt. So he could be, you know, above dragon or even god for all we know. But from what I remember, he didn't seem to be as strong as the hype that I heard about him made him out to be. Not that he's weak or anything, but I was expecting him to be like Saitama or something. Jeffrey L asks, blast powers seem to be based on the theory that wormholes are a singularity created by black holes that allow travel to other time, places, dimensions, creating exits like white holes. Blast can survive this journey, which would turn anyone else into spaghetti via the gravity alone. Do you think that's what we're seeing here, or are his powers just teleportation instead of wormhole gravity based? Hey, you hit it on the head, Jeffrey. I think that was an excellent way of describing Blast's abilities here, at least in my opinion, because I do think the core of what he does is just manipulates gravity, and that's pretty much how he's getting around. So yeah, good job. William H asks, cool arm tats, want to tell us about them and their meaning? This right here is the Eye of Ra, and if you followed my Truth About One Punch Man videos, you'll know the significance of this, and that's also a big reason why I got it, because I became like a big fan of Egyptian mythology while making those videos, because I discovered that pretty much Saitama is based on the Egyptian god Ra, and I just really like the symbology and meaning and what it overall relates to me as a person. But also at the same time, this is kind of like me getting a One Punch Man tattoo as well, since it's been such a big aspect of my life these past couple years, and the reason why I'm Zhoniin for the most part. After reading the newest One Punch Man chapter, the last page had something at the bottom. Do you think this is Rover's head underground? So yeah, absolutely. I'm 99% sure that's Rover. I mean, even if you look at it, you can kind of make out that it's him. So for anyone that hasn't read the webcomic or just hasn't gone that far, it turns out that after the battle, Rover for some reason shrunk down to like a little puppy form, and Saitama winds up finding him along with Black S, and they kind of like become his pets afterwards. So yeah, I think that also means that Black S is alive for sure in the manga continuity as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the next chapter along with Rover. Mr. Toby 1018 asks, how many big bads do you think we'll get before we eventually get to God? So that's a good question, and I really don't know, because the manga is so crazy and it changes so much, but at least this point in time, I think we have at least 3 that have been somewhat established, or I personally see that could be big bads. So Drive Knight, of course, I think he's going to be a big bad, and then maybe Fuzzy. The verdict's still out on him, but it seems like he has like that big bad aura. And I also think that once Drive Knight makes like Cyborg Orochi, he might be like a big bad too, or at least just a big arc-ending fight for everyone possibly. Majin Boros asks, do you think Garo is going to be the replacement for Bang's hero spot in the next arc possibly? Because I could see it goes this way, Garo becoming a hero, and maybe that's how we get to see him versus Suiryu. So that's a great question, and I was wondering how the Suiryu fight was going to play out too, since it doesn't seem like Garo is going to become like an Amazon worker at this point in the manga. So either Suiryu just randomly tracks down Garo at Bang's dojo, because technically he's still still wanted, or at least he'd be wanted by the Neo heroes. So I guess that could be the excuse for him to fight Garou, because I think one will do that in the manga for sure. But as for Garou replacing Bang as a hero in the next arc, just me personally, I don't think that's likely. If we ever do see Garou become a hero, which I'm unsure of, it'll probably be in the last arc maybe, but again, I could be wrong. The manga is so crazy. Garret M asks, what moment from One Punch Man are you most excited to see animated in season 3? I for one want to see how they do the Garou and Orochi fight. So yeah, me too. That's honestly what I want to see the most. I've always wanted to see that since I've read that chapter. That, in my opinion, is one of the best chapters in the series, and I have faith that they'll deliver on it, or at least I hope so. But aside from that, I really want to see the Zombie Man chapter 2, like when he takes on Pure Blood, because that chapter is just pure fun, and it could be one of the best anime episodes as well if they do it right. P Tasty asks, do you think Eri's bullets being in play, we could potentially see a rematch between All Might versus All for One? So I wish. I mean, if I could pay to see this, I totally would. But at this point, I just don't have faith that Horikoshi is going to pull something like this off. I think Horikoshi has kind of given up on All Might being like a fighter ever again for the most part. Like, he may even still die. And I think partly is because the majority of the fandom, Japanese and international, I don't really think cares about All Might, to be honest. It seems more so like a minority of the fan base likes him. So I think that's probably partly why he doesn't really focus on All Might anymore, or the possibility that we'll see him reverted to his prime or whatever, or if we'll even just see a flashback of him fighting All for One in their prime like 6 years ago. I would love it, but I just have zero expectations for anything like this to happen. Little Ferrari asks, some of me is a little conflicted about what they're doing with Garou in the manga. Like, it's awesome how him and Bang appear to be genuinely bonding, and it's neat that Garou seems like he'll be way more involved in the next arc of the manga, but I really like the mystique he had in the webcomic, where we only see him under the waterfall with King and Job Hunter Garou. How do you feel? So I think at this point we should look at the webcomic and the manga characters as like two completely different characters, like variants in the multiverse or whatever. Because I think the Garou in the webcomic had a much rougher outcome than the Garou in the manga. Like, in the webcomic, Saitama is way colder, and he breaks Garou like in more ways than one. And I think that's why the webcomic Garou goes on the journey that he does. Like, I'm pretty sure one is going to continue the webcomic, and we will see how that Garou eventually plays out, so it'll always be there. It's just that the manga Garou is different, and I think, you know, we can just enjoy both continuities, because it's not like one cancels out the other. Zeldoor asks, what if Sukuna had access to an immortality kind of technique like Tengen does, and that's why he was able to live for so long and also started shapeshifting into a curse like what Tengen is going through, and that's why he needed Kenjaku to find him a new vessel. Maybe he was able to copy a technique like this back in the day, like how he copied Jogo's fire technique. So first of all, I don't know if he copied Jogo's fire technique. I think it was kind of implied that he inherently maybe had that possibly, but as for Sukuna just having multiple curse techniques, that seems to be the case, right? So it is possible that he has some kind of immortality ability, but we also don't know how long he lived. We only know that he existed in the Heian era 1,000 years ago, but we don't know like what his lifespan was, as far as I know. And we also don't know the exact time that he was made into a curse object by Kenjaku, but I assume it was somewhat during the Heian era as well, so it's not like he lived for 1,000 years, but he is technically over 1,000 years old because he's, you know, existed as a cursed object for that long. But there's definitely something special going on with Sukuna, since he's not like a curse. He's a full-blown human, but, you know, looks like a curse for some reason. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. I want to thank all of my patrons for continuing to support me. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. And once again, if you would like to be in next week's video, simply check out the link in the description. You can sign up there. And if you like the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.